So I'm probably the unpopular opinion when it comes to this subject, but I'm okay with that. I really hate, honestly, I hate what the sexual liberation movement has done to modern women. I understand that, there is a push for equality and a push for women to be able to operate in a space where they feel like they're treated as equals. Like, I understand that ideologically, but I think in practice, and I think what that's produced, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. For me, it hurts my heart to see young, beautiful women treat themselves what I believe to be just treat themselves like trash, treat themselves like a prostitute, and then that for that to be celebrated. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not necessarily, happy about men going around sleeping around either. Like I'm not really in agreement. I don't think that that's healthy for both sides. But especially for young women, it just breaks my heart when I see that. And not only when I see it being celebrated or promoted as freedom. And I'm thinking, why is sexual liberation, why is it almost always linked to promiscuity? Rarely do I hear sexual liberation being like, yeah, I'm free to live disciplined, or I'm free to be abstinent, or I am free to operate restraint. You never really see it like that. You only generally see it as I am free to have as many sexual partners as humanly possible. And here's the thing. I mean, yes, a person does have the right to do that. But what I think is irresponsible and what I think is a big problem is that what hasn't really been talked about and what hasn't really been addressed is the negative implications and the repercussions for living that kind of lifestyle. Because act as if a person can just go around and just have as many sexual partners as possible and it's not going to affect them, that's irresponsible. And even if you don't get STDs or you don't get pregnant, there's emotional repercussions, there's spiritual repercussions, there's psychological repercussions, and it impacts everyone differently. And so what I don't like about this idea, even this idea of a whole phase, or a woman comes of age and she goes and explores herself and finds her sexuality, and that's celebrated somehow as a woman coming of her own. Even that idea, we never really see the repercussions of that. That is downplayed or sometimes just completely removed from the conversation altogether. And I think that's irresponsible. Now, here's the thing. Me, for example, I'm a virgin, right? And no, I'm not a born again virgin. I've been abstinent my entire life, and that was by choice. I accepted God when I was a young kid, and I just really felt in my heart that there were certain things that I wanted to do as a way of honoring my commitment to the Lord. So that was something that I chose to do. Now, that doesn't make me better than anyone. That doesn't make me worse than anyone. It was just my personal decision. And of course, there were certainly opportunities and there were tests for me to break that pact, but it just was something I just wasn't ever really willing to do. But as a result, because I just haven't engaged in certain things, or because I didn't really go that route, it gave me the opportunity to be an observer of a lot of things. I personally never experienced the whole phase. I chose not to go down that road, but I have a lot of friends and acquaintances who did. And so I can speak as an observer. And what I can say as an observer is that that lifestyle isn't anything that I necessarily envy. Reason being, I feel like I primarily see two things. Or I feel like yeah, I feel like there's like two byproducts of what come from that kind of lifestyle. So one is either, a person ends up always being in some form of a situationship, hopping from bed to bed, maybe talking to multiple dudes or multiple partners, you know what I mean? But there always seems to me, appears to be this a consistent level of drama, consistent level of transition, um, And generally it comes with a consistent level of heartache, and it'll go in circles. Sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, this day I'm up, or this week I'm up, this is great, this is great, that's great. And then usually there's like a crash, and it's like a up and a down, it's up and down. And I feel like the people that I know personally who have engaged in that lifestyle, there is a ton of emotional instability. It may seem fun, it may seem like, hey, you're just kind of like riding the wave, but when that person sits down and they actually check in with themselves, or when you look at their life, I've just noticed that there is either emotional instability, psychological instability, spiritual instability, or just all the above. And so I feel like you have that byproduct. Or also what I've seen is a woman who was kind of gone down that road, and lived that life for a long time, and then she hits a point in her life where she says, I'm done, I'm exhausted, I'm tired of this. Now I want to be a born again virgin. And so that's the two things I've noticed, right? I've noticed one person who's deep into the lifestyle, and they're emotionally, or they're just unstable, period. And in some way, shape, or form, something about them is unstable. Or there's a person, like I said, who has done that for a long time. They're tired of it, and they're like, okay, I want to be a born again virgin. I want to do better. But either way, what I have noticed, what I have seen is that at the end of that road, at the end of this idea of like, okay, I'm going to explore my whole phase, or I'm sexually free, therefore I'm going to sleep with whatever that moves. At the end of that, I feel like is just dissatisfaction. Is just somebody who is unfulfilled. And that's what I don't necessarily, I think that's one of my main concerns, one of my main gripes about sexual liberation, is that it paints this picture as of, oh, this is freedom. You're going to be your best version of yourself. You're going to be your happiest this. You're going to X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I've not seen that. If anything, I've seen trauma. I've seen just heartache. I've seen, STDs. I've seen, unwanted pregnancies. I've seen, a person needing therapy. I mean, all of those things, but rarely, if ever, have I seen a person who has actively lived that way, has actively gone down that road and been like, I am at peace. I am content. I am happy. I am stable. I have never seen that. I've never seen it. And so that's what I don't like. I think many of us women, we've been lied to. I think we've been lied to. And so I don't look down at a woman who has a high body count and think that I'm better than them, or think that they're better than me, because I don't. I think I don't think that way. But what I do, especially when I talk to women who have done that, and they are carrying the wounds, right? Their battle wounds, for lack of a better term. And I'm talking to them, and we're processing some of these things. Like my heart breaks. My heart breaks, and I'm thinking, man, like, why does it have to be sometimes that 20, 30, 40 years into the game, a person now decides, okay, I want to do better, now I'm a born again virgin? What if we just from the beginning, what if we, as little girls from the beginning, we were taught, hey, you don't have to go through all of this to value yourself, you can value yourself from day one? What if we just had those kind of conversations? Would that make things better? Because how has this helped us? I feel like, just for women, how has this actually helped us? Are women happier? Or are they on more medicine? Are they on more antidepressants? Are families doing better? Or is the divorce rate high? I mean, it's just, there's just so many different things. Is marriages up? Are marriages down? Are there more single parent households? I mean, we can just go down the list. And while I'm not gonna, make a simple statement and say that, oh, well, the sexual liberation movement is completely linked to the destruction of all those things that I just mentioned, because they're not. There's a lot of different components that I think tie into why families in general, and marriages and relationships in general, I think, are under attack. I think there's a lot of different components to that. But I do think one of them is this idea of modern female sexuality that has just been shoved down our throat. And I mean shoved, literally. We've all seen it, we've all experienced it. Every year there's some new hot girl summer movie, especially for Black women, and that's one thing I think that makes me especially perturbed, is that it's Black women who are at the forefront of this. And to me, it seems like the more a Black woman degrades herself and acts like a prostitute, the more base she acts, then the more money she gets, the more she's celebrated, the more she's promoted. And that disgusts me. That disgusts me because I don't really see that for other cultures. I don't really see, Indian women or Palestinian women, okay, or Chinese women or Jewish women, okay? Like I don't see these communities like at the forefront of this movement, having music videos, having songs, having like I don't see this so much in the culture, but in Black culture, I feel like that's all we see. That's like the primary representative we see. And to me it's like, I mean, how is this any different than what was said about us in slavery? In slavery, they painted the same picture that the Black woman was, sexually loose. She was this Jezebel. She had no discipline. And it's like those same tropes, those exact same tropes are going on today for men and for women. And so it bothers me. It bothered me for women in general, but especially bothers me for women of color because I'm thinking, you could do so much better. You could do so much better. And why are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating behavior that 50, 60, 70 years ago a person would have been ashamed of? Would have been considered, this is what prostitutes do. Is this the best we think we can do? I mean, is it really that liberating? Is it really? I don't think so. Now, I can't say from my own personal experience that I know this to be true, but I can certainly say from people that I know and people that I've talked to, just based upon the evidence out there, I don't know that I see freedom. I think it cost. I think sexual liberation, I think it costs a lot. I think it costs women years of their life. I think it costs them sometimes their dignity. I think it costs them their self-worth. And I think that's why sometimes even when you address a woman or they want to talk about the ideas of body count or talk about the idea of having a lot of sexual partners, there's this combative, aggressive response because internally there's a sense of shame. And when you carry that shame, that's that can change things. And that's what I think. I think that's what it does for a lot of people. Like I said, it takes away years. It takes away their dignity. And sometimes it even takes away their opportunity at a better, more peaceful relationships. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good. And so no, I don't really like the idea of modern female sexuality. I don't like the idea that is almost exclusively linked to sexual promiscuity. I don't like that. I don't agree with that. I think it's bad. I think it's damaging. I think it hurts women. And if, even if you talk to men, right? Like, if you're a woman, especially that wants to be in a relationship, that wants to have a family one day, that wants to settle down and be a wife, if you engage in that kind of lifestyle, I mean, already your chances of being able to be in a happy family, it goes down. Not to say that some men won't want to wife you up, but men aren't necessarily attracted to that. And not that a woman goes and a woman or a person is going to make decisions based upon what they want, not necessarily based upon what another person wants. But I think it's important to know. It's important to know. I think a woman should know, like, okay, if I'm going to engage in this kind of lifestyle and my eventual goal is to be a wife, or my eventual goal is to have this kind of lifestyle, then you should know what are the repercussions of this behavior. You should know, okay, well, what is it going to mean if I essentially have my whole phase and then now I all of a sudden try to be a wife? How is that going to affect my options? How are men going to see me? If I want to be in a relationship with a man, how are the people that I want to be with going to see me? And I think those kinds of conversations need to be had, but they rarely are. There's this expectation that like, oh, you can have a whole phase, and then all of a sudden you just blink. Okay, maybe now you're a born again virgin for 2 days, and then God's gonna just send you this perfect man, or this perfect man just gonna like plop out there because he decided to be, sexually disciplined for 2 days. And it doesn't necessarily work like that. Not to say that a person can't, not to say a person can't rebuild after making some mistakes. But I think there needs to be an honest discussion about, okay, what are the challenges that you do face if you go down that road and now you want to change your life around? What are the challenges and what is the reality of that? And again, I just wish a person they had this knowledge. I wish we didn't go into these things or make these decisions as adults blindsided and think that, like, oh, I can do all these things and have no repercussions, because that's how it's painted, but that's not the reality. And so, I ask, sexual liberation or the whole phase, born again version, whatever. I mean, this whole thing, is it helping us? Is promiscuity, is female promiscuity, is that helping women? Is having the option to be promiscuous, is that freedom, or is that bondage? Is that leading to happiness, or is that leading to destruction? What do you think? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns, and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and talk soon.